Okay, so our last speaker is Ronak Sutaria, who actually manages both academia as well as running a social enterprise, which is Urban Sciences. And Ronak is going to talk about his work on using low-cost sensors for combating air pollution.
Good afternoon. Thank you, actually. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm actually going to be talking about the air quality work that we've been doing since around late 2014. We kind of started putting it out around 2015. So yeah, the title of my talk is, the Atmos is the device we make. Actually, I've got a Atmos here with me. It does PM2.5, real-time PM2.5 monitoring, and the focus is on citizen science monitoring. So air pollution, we are in Chennai, so I'm not sure how many are actively tracking this, but if you have flown down, especially from north of India, this kind of gives you a global perspective of what the issue is. The issue, the red, of course, as you can imagine, is where the severe quality of air is existing. India, of course, pretty much all of it is covered, but 92% of the population is believed to be this. From the health perspective, the WHO actually has categorized and classified air pollution as a carcinogenic substance. Particularly particulate matter is known to be cancer-causing. In India, around 1.2 to 1.6 million people actually die every year because of the air pollution, but also 20 million people, that's over 2 crore people, have a reduced quality of life. Just to give you a sense on the physical aspect of what, because we specifically focus on PM2.5 monitoring. The pollution as defined by the Central Pollution Board consists of about a dozen different pollutants. There are about 10 to 12 pollutants. We focus primarily on the PM2.5 and PM10. And to give you an idea of the scale of it, this big image here, that's a strand of hair. And the PM2.5 is about a 30th the size of your hair. So that's the kind of particles which are going inside your system when you're breathing the pollution levels. This actually kind of gives you a perspective of where we are vis-a-vis the monitoring aspects. In India, the onus for monitoring air pollution is with the Central Pollution Control Board, which manages all the state pollution boards also. The image on the right-hand side, actually, this one here is what the existing monitoring is what we have. There are about 130 to 140 continuous monitoring stations across the country. You can see there are gaps of states where there is absolutely no monitoring, and that is a region which produces about 30% of India's electricity, so coal-powered electricity. What is recommended is around 4,000, which is a very conservative number for the amount of monitoring locations that are needed in India. The more realistic number actually is closer to 8 to 10,000 monitoring locations are needed. As of now, there are about 300 cities where monitoring is being done out of the 6,000 odd census cities that are existing in India, which is just about 5% of Indian cities are actually covered right now. Of course, CBCB has manual monitoring stations, which primarily gives you data from about 2 to 3 months prior. So that is not continuous. So for citizens, it kind of becomes meaningless. For policymakers, of course, there is monitoring that happens. So our change philosophy actually stems from pretty much this, that we believe in democratization of data and technology. The work we do, I run a company. It is a private limited company, but we believe that whatever we make, actually, both the data, the sensing part that we do, and the availability of technology should be available to pretty much anybody, who can afford. So we've been installing. Actually, we have some colleagues here, Shweta and Dharmesh. They've gone and installed this in the remotest parts of the country, in Korba and Singrauli. We've been working with people in IITs. The fancy neighborhoods in Delhi, which have been installing it. Groups in the US have actually installed monitors. So of course, once you put sensor technology, sensing technology by itself, of course, is about 15, 20 years old. The breakthrough in this is, of course, that once the data starts coming, the biggest question that will get thrown at any such project is, how do we trust your data? How is your data any good? So pretty much since around April 17, we've been pretty much focused on validating this data which has been coming. So we have around 200 locations that we've been installing. But this actually, as you will see, as I said, this is what's the EBAM. And that's what the government is going and buying as a part of their national clean air program. Each of these reference grade monitors are actually costing around $15,000. So the government has a plan to roll out 1,000 of these. These are actually getting rolled out as we speak. The National Clean Air Program actually, I think, has budgeted close to 300 crores to roll this out nationwide. But as we saw, there were about 130 that have been rolled out in the last 4 years. So practically speaking, while the program looks excellent, the desire is there to put a lot of these, we managed to do about 150 in 3 years. And these are very difficult to maintain equipment. They break down very frequently, not to undermine anything, but technologically it's a challenge to roll this out. So of course, sensor technology is more easily. So what we've been doing is, we calibrate, well, I should not use calibrate. We validate a lot of this equipment before it rolls out. The calibration is where we are, trying to work with MSR to figure that piece out. But so far, all of the equipment that we roll out is validated. Just to give you a sense of, the journey that this is a startup. I mean, I registered the startup in April 17. The work kind of started in December 2014, where we put where I had actually seen this kind of projects in UC Berkeley. So I used to live in Berkeley, in SF, and I had seen some of this work. So that's where I kind of picked up the idea that this would be great to kind of roll out in India. We launched this with a journalism foundation, actually. So I used to work with a partner organization of Boom Live called India Spend, and we started putting some of these out in December 2015. We actually engaged with IIT Kanpur in around December 2016 is where the IITs finally got interested, because this was pitched to a couple of institutes and government labs in 2014, but it's in 16 that we found some engagement happening with the scientific labs, and we started testing it. So we got some grant from IIT Kanpur and Duke to do our first round of testing. And in 17, we launched the Atmos. So this is actually the work that has come out of the engagement we did with IITK and Duke, where essentially the goal was to identify what is the effect of humidity, and can we parameterize because particulate matter actually is affected by humidity significantly, and especially sensor-based measurements of PM, actually, because the way the laser sensor works, if the humidity goes up, the particle sizes change, which is not affected so much in the reference grade equipment because they have a massive dehumidifier and their technology is relatively different. So a lot of this is being tried to be handled with at the data level. There is publications coming out of EPA and out of the West. Primarily, I'm trying to work in validating whether those techniques which are being developed. So all of this work has happened actually at Duke, at the Raleigh Center, where they've come up with these equations. And we are trying to see if this works out in Indian conditions, because Indian particulates are different than particulates in the West. So this is again, this is actually the BAM monitor which got the entire air pollution story in India started. Because in 2014 was the first time that air pollution actually hit the headlines, that it's an apocalypse. So this was the very first equipment that was deployed by the US Embassy in Delhi, and Indian Express started with their headline stories that, the pollution is severe, and so actually there were slides, okay. There were a couple of things, I don't know, it got missed. Anyway, so that was actually the reference grade equipment, again, which is being deployed. The big question is, when you start putting sensor-based, we started deploying this close to CPCB monitors in several cities. So Chandigarh, Patna, we managed to have associations with the State Pollution Board where they're allowing us to install. Now, to answer the big question is, can we trust the data, is the question actually I went to MSR with. And that's the work that we are doing. Actually, Srini is here, I think. He's actually, there's a team which is helping figure out, how good is this data and can we make it better? Because the raw data is not bad. It can actually answer a lot of questions. But as soon as you engage in the regulatory mechanism of the country, they want to know what is the testing that's been done. So we've done empirical testing, using several techniques, but this, we are doing a more deep dive and trying to see if we can reduce the error margin. So this, from rolling this out at scale, this is going to be a very important activity. This again is from some data that we are looking at in Patna, and as you can see, the The lines in blue is the reference grade monitors, and the lines in red actually are the sensor-based equipment. The error margin actually, as you could have seen here, this is, the raw data is giving an error margin of about 18%. Using techniques, it's being brought down to about 11%. So this, this basically shows that the sensor stuff is relevant, it works. It, of course, can be improved upon. Folks, community organizations are actually rolling this out to understand city-level pollutions, and can we understand what's happening at city scale? And it's very clear that when we've deployed this in Delhi, we've deployed this in Chennai actually, and it is very closely tracking pollution events. So episodic pollutions, if you are interested in understanding, the sensor grade stuff is actually working for that. So traditionally air pollution data used to be put out on 24-hour basis actually. All the manual monitors always give you one number for the whole day. And actually that one number, hides a lot, because when you look at a 24-hour average, these are identical, both are identical data sets. This is the 24-hour data, this is the hourly data. A citizen who's looking at this is going to feel everything is fine. But you do need real-time and hourly data. So now finally the reference grade monitor is moving towards 15-minute data points. But actually, as we've seen, most of it is actually hourly data. Sensor-based, of course, can give you per-minute data. So for citizens, it becomes more relevant. A citizen is not interested in data which is 2 months old. He wants to look at data which is for today. So we have actually another project. After doing a few deployments, we got a grant from a Sustainable Energy Foundation, Shakti, which funded 50 monitors to roll out in 10 cities of India. And all of that they wanted to calibrate. So, we've got now 50 calibrated monitors which we are trying to install. Of course, there are challenges in the reference grade monitors also. So interestingly, one of the findings we've had is, because of this exercise, we started digging deeper into the reference grade data. And we've found that, the reference grade data itself has challenges. It is not so easy that, even though it is FEM grade, it may be considered the, federally approved equipment. In some of the equipment, we found that there are time shifts. The clocks were not correctly configured, and the data that they are reporting is actually from data which is 3 hours ago. But because we put 2 or 3 Atmos sensors, and we saw that when we shift the data, the R-square goes to 0.95. But the default timestamps they give us is 0.6. So obviously that the data was misaligned. So there was a misconfiguration at the equipment level. But it was reference grade, so it would have never been picked up had we not done some amount of this kind of checking. To give you a sense, so this project actually has been running for about 10 months, the 10-city project. This is the kind of air quality levels that we are looking at. How many days, the numbers here are not clear, but in a city like Delhi, we've had 72% of the days in the past 2 months which have been poor. Kanpur actually has 87% of the days which have been poor. I have a monitor here. I mean, any guesses what Chennai is at right now? You guys have all just walked in from outdoors. Any number? So we were at about 30, because I've been tracking this since morning. Of course, this is an air-conditioned room, so it's going to be much cleaner. I had it running outside, and we are at 30. So in Chennai, I mean, Shweta has been tracking this data since over a year. But Chennai is fortunate, but she's still raising issues, because the WHO has said about 10, the average level of 10 is considered to be good. So if you look at the numbers that the people in these cities are breathing on an ongoing basis, so typically about 250 on a 24-hour basis is considered to be extremely severe for even healthy people. And we are having days and days of severe levels. And this is just because we ran a 10-city project that we are trying to get this information. Ideally, we would like to run this in 6,000 cities. So our goal is to actually roll this out in 6,000. I don't know how many of you are tracking the air pollution news, but from the news, it looks like Delhi is the only city which actually is having an air pollution problem. When you start monitoring, you actually realize Delhi is, these are locations we've been monitoring, but Kanpur, Patna, Varanasi are far more severe. And until you don't monitor, it will always, Delhi actually from the regulatory grade has, out of the 150, it has got 38 regulatory grade monitors. So all of the funds have actually gone to the one city, and primarily because so much monitoring is happening, there is so much reporting happening, and then there is so much mitigation funds going to the same place where the monitoring is happening. So this is kind of a, a chicken and egg problem, that until you don't monitor, you're not going to be able to reallocate your funds for mitigation to the places which need. So we've actually, Kanpur, Patna, we find the entire Indo-Gangetic belt. There are cities which are far worse than that. The interesting thing is, as soon as you do real-time data, and since we've been doing this for a while, we are finding that as soon as we put out information on Twitter, all of our data kind of, we tweet it out. We find that the time to impact, we tweet out something in the morning, it actually gets picked up by evening and it gets shown. So this actually is another thing, we've had things about news, and we are living in a time and age where there is, the editorial processes are not that long. If you're doing data at scale, you're going to see your data getting consumed literally in hours. So, and this is the reason why we want to make sure that our data is bulletproof. All the checks and balances have been ticked, because we find that as soon as you put information out, it gets picked up, and the time to. So this was actually a news story which NDTV did the day we started putting out Diurnal trends, and there was a whole story done on why schools need to start late, because 7 a.m. actually is the worst time for Delhi, and schools start at 7:30 and 8. So the recommendation was that schools should start at 9:30. It's a small change, but from a health perspective, by 9:30 actually the levels almost fall down here, whereas at 7:30 you are right at the top. So there are small policy change that can be done at an individual school level. Even just people who are taking morning walks, it's not recommended to go out at 7 a.m., but that information needs to be made available. This is just actually last 3 days, I just searched for air pollution stories. And the amount, this is actually a story again which Dharmesh and Shweta have worked on. The center actually a week ago rolled out the National Clean Air Program. WHO has just put out a story where they are saying that along with the greenhouse gas emissions, climate change was always a top issue. Air pollution is now one of the 10 global threats that they're perceiving. You guys actually MSR is in Bangalore, but pollution is in Bangalore is expected to go up by 74%. So good luck to everybody living in Bangalore. But it's 2030 and we are in 2019, so maybe there's something that we should start doing. Coming to the technology side, I have a technology background. I have a computer science background. So there is a project which DST has rolled out along with Intel and IUSSTF, and I'm part of it. This project actually has been, it's come to IIT Kanpur, and then IIT-B and IISc are also part of it. The goal is now to extend the particulate matter to the gas sensors, because the gas sensing equipment is actually costing about 1 crore of rupees, unlike the PM. Okay, I'm going to run through this now. Anyway, so this is the architecture we have. We are moving towards the NB-IoT stack. So far, we are using cellular technology. We are moving towards the narrowband IoT. There's going to be energy harvesting done in this. And of course, all the other APIs and things. I'm going to quickly jump through these. Why do we need to monitor in all the cities? Of course, each city's pollution trends are different. The big challenge over here is that, we are in November, December, we are like this. We need to have air quality conferences when the situation is going to look good in July, when everything is going to be very green. There's a lot of GPS-enabled work, the spatio-temporal aspects of identifying hotspots we need to look into. This is actually a very interesting IoT integration we did with Twitter. And actually, I want to pitch this, that LinkedIn and maybe even the Windows operating system can look at, starting to disseminate real-time air quality. You guys now own LinkedIn. So it's a very interesting integration that you all can do. Some key learnings from running a nationwide network. Monitors need to be deployed in pairs. You have to do a lot of, there is calibration needed. There is no question about it. Standardization of monitoring locations. These are some of the people that we've been working with for over 2 years. IITK, there is Professor Tripathi, Duke University, TSI, and then we have a team. That's it.
So I wanted to ask you that we have heard a lot about Delhi. You said that the situation is much more worse in Patna and all these places. Is it the same reason? Are the reasons same for the pollution?
No, they are definitely going to be different. I mean, the rural parts of India actually is going to have a significantly different reason for air pollution than the urban cities. And even within urban cities, there is a lot of variation. Sorry?
Enumerate some, what are they?
Like rural, actually, the cooking stuff problem is a very, very well identified reason that everybody uses solid fuel to actually make food twice a day. It contributes to about 30 to 40% of the population in tier 3 towns and villages. Urban, actually, it's going to be vehicle, it's going to be road dust. So yeah, I mean, it varies city to city. Bombay has a different problem. Places which
so that
have
means geography also plays a big role in this.
Absolutely. The wind patterns play a role. The environmental factors play a role.
Sir, why is this concentrated in the Indo-Gangetic plain, as you said that?
The Indo-Gangetic, actually, I mean, I'm not an expert on the aerosol side, but typically, I think the industry-wise emissions are more in that region. India's entire thermal power belt is, close to it. And I think it's heavily unregulated is one reason. Of course, the sources of pollution are more there. I mean, it's also landlocked. In most cities are landlocked, unlike coastal India. That could be one reason.
Thank you, sir.
Well, so it all depends on how many we put out at a time. But typically, these are between about $250 to $300. So that's about 20,000 rupees.
So I'm curious about interventions. So I wonder whether if school starts at 9:30 and all the buses start going at 9:30, then maybe the pollution will be high at 9:30 also, right?
Well, I mean, I don't want to make a comment, but I think the meteorological conditions are affecting is the belief right now. But you are right. I mean, see, the odd even actually was tried with some, and that's why you need monitoring to figure out whether a change like this done in a small area, does it work? Because odd even actually, from all documented literature, has not had any effect. It has a very marginal effect on changing the pollution levels. But fortunately, it was done in Delhi, and we have so much monitoring done in Delhi. But to evaluate any policy, we come from the technology end, so we are primarily looking at evaluating policies. What should be the corrective policy? I mean, I think the corrective policy is to really eliminate sources. Honestly, there is no alternative to eliminating the sources of pollution. You'll have to clamp down on the desire for coal-based energy. You will have to penalize, there are 18 notified industries, you have to go after them. Not a single one has been penalized. Shockingly, in India, the pollution control boards have not penalized any industry. I mean, Vedanta was the only one which has shut down due to pollution. So interestingly, the whole article, I mean, refers to a publication which has been done using satellite data. So, I mean, yes, there is predictions done for all cities. So far, the work is done using satellite data. There is a technique known as aerosol optical depth, which gives you PM2.5 for the whole country, at a 5-kilometer resolution. Now, 5-kilometer resolution is not adequate for a policy intervention. It's good enough for a national level report. So we believe in ground level monitoring. So there isn't, those numbers are based on, the satellite data has about 100 to 200% error margin. So, but yeah, I mean, that reports are available. I can share those links with you. They are not my reports. They're publicly available. I mean, all urban cities are undergoing massive pollution spikes. I mean, that is what is expected by 2030.